Alright, to get the specs out of the way first, we've got a brushed titanium case with a diameter of 38 millimeters and a height of 11.4 millimeters. We've got a lug width of 20 millimeters and a lug-to-lug or wingspan of 46 millimeters. The crystal on this watch is sapphire crystal with a 2.2 millimeter thickness and an inner anti-reflective coating applied. We've got 300 meters of water resistance and some Swiss Supernova Lume applied throughout the watch. For the movement, we've got a 24 joule Japanese Miyota 9015 automatic, and the weight on this watch with the bracelet is 126 grams. Before we get to the watch itself, I'd like to show you the included packaging. The watch comes in this extremely high quality leather watch roll. We've got the Helson logo very nicely embossed here into the black leather and a thick stitched leather strap keeping the whole thing closed. If we go ahead here and unwrap it, we see we got this very nice soft high quality red suede material inside, and included within this pouch, of course, you have your Helson warranty card with all your information on it. You have your extra titanium links for the bracelet. Slide that back in here. You get a rubber strap included, which also has a etched buckle on it, which also is made out of the same titanium as the watch itself. I'll overlay a photo comparing the titanium bracelet and the rubber strap side by side, just so you can get an idea of how they look next to each other. Personally, I prefer the titanium bracelet for everyday wear, but the rubber strap is definitely a nice addition for those actual diving occasions, or if you just prefer a more lightweight, easy to wear style watch. Additionally, in here, you have your watch strap changing tool, which is very nice to have. A lot of times companies do not include these, so definitely a nice touch from Helson. Then of course you have the watch itself, which after we change camera angles here quickly, we'll dive in and take a closer look. I want to give you guys just a quick background on Helson as a brand before we get looking closer at the watch here. Helson was founded in Europe, and on their website it says that their claim is to create reliable and yet reasonably priced dive watches. And I think as a brand as a whole, they really do a great job of doing this. You know, they're one of the by the people, for the people type of companies, and I think they do a really good job. It's evident in the components that they use, all high quality. They use ETA and Miyota movements. They use genuine Swiss Super Luminova Lume. I mean, just everything that they put into these watches is great, and the price point that they offer is just unbeatable in its category, in my opinion. All right, now that we've moved the camera up a little bit closer here, we can start to really appreciate some of the finer details of this watch. Starting out with the dial, we have this very nice pastel blue color covering the entire dial, and then you get that orange shark diver branding from Helson, which gives it a great little pop. Additionally, we have these oversized sword hands, which really give it a nice vintage diver aesthetic that I appreciate a lot. You have accentuated 12, 3, 6, and 9 markers to make it extremely easy to read. And overall, the dial just has great symmetry. Another note about that, and really one of my favorite features about the watch, is the date window here. A combination of the fact that Helson decided to place this date window between the 4 and 5 o'clock positions and using a blue wheel with white text really just allows the date to strike a perfect balance between being easily read and also not disrupting that symmetry of the dial, which I previously mentioned. I really wish more companies would do this. It just is a perfect balance between aesthetic and functionality that I wish more would copy. All right, moving on from the dial to the bezel and bezel insert. We see that on this particular model here, we have the blue painted titanium bezel insert, which I really like, but the watch also is offered in an unpainted insert variant with black lettering for these indexes here. Now, one complaint I do have about the watch, and there are very few, but this being the main one, is the action on the bezel here. Being a dive watch, it has a unidirectional rotating bezel, but the action is extremely stiff. I'll see if you can see what I'm talking about here. I don't know how well you can tell, but it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel, but the action is just stiffer than I would like to see. I guess one positive from that is that if you are diving with this watch and using the bezel as a timer, you're definitely not going to be accidentally rotating this by any means. And I don't know if this is just a problem with my specific watch, but I also saw a couple videos of other YouTubers reviewing this piece, and they too seem to struggle with rotating that bezel. So I don't know if this is an intentional move by Helson or if just a flaw across a production line, but just thought I would point that out for you. Moving on from a complaint about the bezel to actually a pretty big compliment is the lume that Helson have applied here. And not just to the bezel insert here in the indexes, but also across all these markers on the dial, as well as the minute and hour hands, and even that pip on the second hand. They've gone with a variant of Super Luminova here that is just absolutely some of the best I've ever seen. I'll try to overlay some footage of it, but I do know that it is difficult to video lume in the dark, but I'll do the best I can for you guys. It's right up there with Seiko's Lume Bright in my opinion. It's absolutely some of the brightest and longest lasting lume that I've seen on a watch, and that's an awesome feature to have on any watch, and especially on dive watches such as this. Now moving on to the bracelet. Now this bracelet is 100% titanium with a stainless steel clasp, and it is one of the most comfortable bracelets that I own. Now the reason that they use stainless steel on the clasp here is because it's much more scratch resistant. So when you're wearing this, and rubbing up against the desk and doors and just anything as you go about your day, it'll be much more resistant to scratching than it would if this clasp were also made of titanium. Speaking of the clasp, a very nice feature of this watch is its dive extension. So if you pull back on these here, then you have a 5 or 6 click extension on that clasp, which really just gives you a great deal of flexibility, not only just for a wetsuit for diving, but also on a hot day when your wrists are swelling a bit. It's easy to just open that up and relieve some tension on your wrist. And to close it, you simply just push it to ratchet back together. The links on this bracelet are extremely free moving, super smooth, no cheap, rattling between links or squeaking or anything of that nature. This bracelet is extremely high quality and very comfortable to wear. Being titanium, it's lightweight, soft, feels good on the skin, and also just gives a great look, in my opinion. It's very unique with these angular links here rather than your typical rounded links on the edge. All of them use screws to keep them together rather than a pin and buckle or pin and collar method, which is definitely the better way to go here. Higher quality, not gonna have any risk of pins falling out or collars breaking or anything like that. This bracelet is gonna last you as long as you have this watch for sure. I also want to take a second just to briefly show you the included rubber dive strap on this watch with the titanium clasp here, Helson branding etched into it. And this strap is extremely pliable. It's very high quality, thick. This is going to be extremely comfortable, durable, and honestly has a pretty sharp look to it as well, with the Tanto style cut off of the strap here at the end. A very large amount of position holes here, so this really will fit any size wrist very comfortably and last you just forever. Now I'll put the watch on wrist for you guys just so you can get an idea of what it looks like when you're actually wearing it. To open it, we just have dual pushers on the clasp here. It's a deployant clasp with a very nice milled folding clasp. None of that cheap pressed metal stuff that I really criticize on Seikos a lot. This is a very high quality deployant clasp here, which I like to see. Putting it on here, you can see it on my about 6 3/4 inch wrist to give you an idea. Now, this watch is a 38 millimeter diameter piece, which in my opinion normally would be a bit small for my taste, but with the chunky lugs that Helson uses here, this 38 millimeter really wears much more like a 40 millimeter, and I think it just has fantastic wrist presence here. Comfortable, looks good, feels good. I think they've nailed it with the proportions on this watch for sure. All right, getting to some closing remarks on this watch. As you heard, I have a lot of good things to say about this piece. Really the only negative I could even come up with was that stiffness of the bezel, which may even go away over time as it gets used more. This watch, I mean, at $680, which is what it costs new from the manufacturer. Now, they are sold out, but you can find them fairly readily on third-party sites such as Reddit, eBay, etc. And I think if you can pick one of these up, even today at that MSRP of $680, and often you'll find them below that, it's just a great value for your money. One of the best bang for your buck watches I've ever owned for sure, and one that I will from here on out be putting on my wrist quite frequently. Alright everyone, that's gonna do it for my review of this watch. I hope that you liked this video. This is my first watch review ever, so I'm sure there's plenty of things that I can work on and improve on, and I'd really appreciate it if you left your constructive criticism down in the comments below. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that, and I'll see you on the next one.